Welcome everybody, François Le Tard, JDR D30, making a video response to Juce 734, who has made a video about concerning character backstory and players who are not, that much into that. Well, the exact title, you will read it under here, and I invite you to check out the original video. It's just a video response, kind of my take on it, just expressing myself. Nothing very scientific here, just how I see it, how I apply it around the table. What's my tip to make it happen? Well, it's true that backstory is often interesting for a game master. It depends on the game master, but I'm the type of game master who may need some context before getting into an adventure, and the backstory is doing that. You mentioned that you want that too, Juce, but some players just don't want to get into it. Yeah, that's true. I often had to encounter that. Most of the players, lots of players, okay, I can't really put a number on that, but lots of players, what they like to do is sit down at the table and play while during the game time, but outside of that, they won't put much work into their character. They don't want to mess with what's happening outside the table. They're there, they get into the adventure, roll some dices and have fun and get back home. And I haven't met lots of players who were putting work on his character outside of the table. So asking them to do backstory is some kind of a homework that they don't want to bring home, and I can really understand that. We, as game masters, we are interested in that because between the sessions we are putting work in our game, so we are kind of messing with the plot and thinking about how to introduce a character into that and to make them into the adventure, to make them real into the adventure. So we do mess with that, but players they want to be entertained when in the set time, and outside of that, not much. But if you want a character backstory, well, of course, creating a character in a session, in a set time, you may try to get that out at this time, asking questions to the player as a group. But some of them may not have answers at that time because it's kind of opening themselves and in front of other people, and for some reasons they may not feel quite comfortable in opening in a group. It's like making talking in front of the class when you were in high school. Okay, so some of the players as that they won't talk that much. So you may not get a character backstory from them now, but I think a good way to do it is to sit down with them without the others, planning another session just with that player, so you get his confidence and he can open himself a little more into how he sees his character and where does it come from. So it's kind of you book a lunchtime with him, or you do it by telephone. I did that in the past, or even you could do that by mail. Okay? You exchange email with that person, so he can have his backstory and doesn't have to justify it in front of the others at the same time of the others. So taking time with that person, so you put attention to him when you're alone with him, and it helps make him feel confident and important at that time. So yeah, he will open more. And if I have more time, what I love to do, it don't happen often because it's a little more time consuming, it's to do a backstory role play session. Role playing something from the past. It can be just a half an hour session with mostly no dice rolling, just role playing stuff from the past. And it helps the player to play his character at that time, to explore it a little, and it makes Nevin from his past just more real. maybe he won't use it in the actual sessions, but he will get something more on how to feel his character if he does a roleplay session. It's something that I was inspired by, I think, Vampire. I've read that in Vampire. I'm really not a fan of World of Darkness and their games, but they have good ideas about how to create a character. And that one, I really remember that it was something that I have that I remembered all the time. And role playing, you know, an event from the past. Yeah, it makes a character more real. So having a backstory, it's important. The characters are not born first level. They are not orphan character. You know that there was a discussion about that lately. You know, the classic character, I have no families, no siblings, no one to rely to. You know, no, there's something, you were something before getting into an adventure, and it's important to have that in the character. It's not an obligation, and it's not even an obligation for the game master to include backstory elements into the story, but it's a tool, it's there, can be used. So, yeah, it doesn't have to belong to. The present session I have now, you know, it was just chatting with the players about who they are, yeah, okay, why they are there, just simple questions, and why they want to go there, because they have a small idea of what I want to do with them, but they have to ask themselves the question why their character could be interested in going there. They have to find their own reason instead of me imposing them one. For some technical reasons, I may have happened in some occasions that I write a part of the background. Why I did that, it's because sometimes you play in some settings and the players don't necessarily know all about that setting, so you have to help them put names in their mouth and put them in a context that goes along with the setting. So in this case, I ask them for the same backstory. I take the same road as a regular backstory, but I will fill the holes with names of places and may help them, suggesting maybe some events that may have happened in their past, accordingly to what I have, what information I have. And you know, the character has always the option to accept what I'm proposing or not. You know, it's kind of working with the player alone, exchanging with him to have a backstory and something that will put him in the context of the first adventure. If you have a plot with some details and you want your character hooked in it and don't have any questions asked, sometimes you have to work a little more harder on the backstory with the player. Once again, you need a player who wants to go to work on the backstory and is open to that. In the case of a player who you really don't, that really doesn't provide a backstory, that you can't reach through individual sessions to have one that begins level 1 with no past. Well, the way I have found to give some kind of a backstory is that I make some roleplay situations in the adventure, some roleplay situations about someone, an NPC that it will meet, that NPC will question him about his past, and the player, you know, if he's in the game and maybe in character, he will respond by himself about those questions. It's very subtle, but I tried through the games. It may take many sessions to have some answers you may need, but you try some when there's a role play session. You may try to stimulate that through interaction with the NPCs, who may get the information about the character slowly. But it's not an obligation. It doesn't have to be forced, because you still have to do it naturally. And if in the end nothing comes, if in the end your character is a first level and never had a life before character, orphan, no siblings, nothing, well, just roll with it. You know, if the game is still pleasant without the backstory, so be it. You can still have fun with those kind of characters, but I do prefer someone who has a backstory. It makes him more real. You come, if players have put time in a backstory, even if it's a one sentence thing, just the act of doing it makes him think about this character and who is he, how does he behave in front of certain situations. So yeah, so I have, I've talked like that, throwing in the air ideas that I have, but usually that these are situations and how I have handled them to have a backstory. Yeah, feel free to comment, feel free to say whatever you want about what I have said. It's been a pleasure sharing that with you. So yeah, up to next time, François Latarte, JDR D30, and have as much fun in your life as in your game. Bye.